Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us for a special election coverage on Fox Local. President Biden just delivered his State of the Union address, and on the local level, we're just 5 days away from the Washington presidential primary, and today also marks the end of Washington's legislative session. So a lot to talk about here with me, our political experts, Randy Peppel, who is a Republican, and Kathy Allen, who is a Democrat. So first, let's talk about that State of the Union address. You guys both listened to it. I want to start with you, Kathy, because right now, President Biden's approval rating, there was a poll done commissioned by the New York Times, and his disapproval rating is at an all-time low, 47%. Did you feel that he did enough? Did he win over some voters? Did that speech make a difference, Kathy?
I think it did. I mean, he was exciting for people like us who tend to say, oh my gosh, this is my candidate. You know, when you sit there and you go, and what happens is that you look at this and you say, oh, he was great. I thought he was exciting. I thought he was new. I thought when he started talking about taxes against the rich and powerful, and he started talking about the things that are going on, I thought, this is good. We're going to be fine on this. Tomorrow, those numbers of which you speak are going to be up substantially because he did a good job. You got to give him his due. Even Republicans have to give him his due.
Do you agree with that?
Well, the due that I would give the president is he made it through the speech. And for Democrats, that was what they were hoping for. But I don't think there were any minds changed. I mean, let's face it. The president came in with a hard task, which is to try to convince the public that he is capable of serving the next 4 years. And he did not do that. He stumbled over words. He stumbled over phrases. He stumbled over applause lines and did not exactly show that he is capable for the next 4 years of leading the country, and that's what he needed to do to try to pull over the remaining 2 or 3% of the undecided people that are out there.
Yeah, one thing on the local level that we're closely watching, 5 days, we're going to have the Washington presidential primary, which is very important. Hopefully everybody votes because it's a very important day, obviously, right? But we all know that there's a lot of people who strongly support Trump, strongly support Biden, but there are a couple of people, right, on both parties who want different choices altogether. So let's talk about the Republicans first. He is the last man standing. Nikki Haley, dropped out recently. So are Washington Republicans who are on the fence about Trump, are they really going to rally behind him now?
It's hard to say because there's the so-called 20% of the voters that are still out there that are called the double haters. They don't like Trump and they don't like Biden. And that's where the election's going to be decided. And that includes, 10% of the Republicans, people like me who, no, we don't like Trump. I don't believe he should be elected president, and they are not going to change their mind before November. But can they find themselves voting for Joe Biden after a performance like tonight where he stumbles through basic names? I mean, and that's the problem of the so-called double haters, and that's where the election's going to be decided.
Kathy, on the Democrat side, though, you do have these so-called uncommitted voters, right? People who are trying to pressure President Biden to take a harder stance in the war against Israel and Gaza. So do you think that by November, those people could make a difference? I mean, should President Biden care about this?
Actually, what's going to happen is that Biden is going to come closer in terms of what needs to be done in Palestine, and as a result, they will all be back. Even Republicans suspect they will never get one vote for Trump from any of those people that are actually looking at it right now. Because the fact of it is that Trump offers more horror to people than a Joe Biden, whom the worst you can say about him is, oh, he could be older than, my father. If that's the case, the real truth is that he didn't look terrible tonight. He made me proud.
No, but Kathy, that's not the thing on the issue with Gaza. I mean, the people who are saying uncommitted on the Democrat side in that primary are saying Joe Biden is sanctioning killing of my people. They don't come back. I mean, how do you say genocide Joe and then come back to vote for him?
I think that what you can say is that he's going to do enough to make people feel it's okay, Randy. And all of that, people like you who have never given a damn about Palestine in your life, the truth of it is Republicans say this is just another digression from what is more important in terms of this election here.
All right, let's come away from the presidential primary for a second and talk about some of the local issues that are going to be impacting us in November, right? So we've got these 3 consequential voter initiatives on the ballot: the repeal of the Climate Commitment Act and the repeal of the 7% capital gains tax, and a third initiative that wants to give Washingtonians the option to opt out of the state's long-term care program, which many of us are taxed on right now. So for, again, an in-depth analysis on this, as you guys all know, initially started with 6 ballot initiatives, right? Last minute, pressured by the Republicans, the Democrats decided to discuss 3 of those voter initiatives. They ended up adopting it, which surprised many people, especially some Democrats would say that. And Kathy, previously you had mentioned that you had some skepticism about whether or not these voter initiatives were really going to go anywhere. Has your opinion now changed about this because the Democrat-controlled legislature adopted those 3? Right? Do you think that the 3 that's now going over to the November ballot, do you feel like that has a good chance of passing?
Good question. No, I don't think so. I think that what all of this is that they're taking a look at what's happening in regards to the climate change stuff as well as what's happening. Hey, the roads that are being fixed are part of this capital gains tax. It's part of the whole bunch of money that is coming through with these two kinds of initiatives. When it comes to the third, I got to tell you, I run into a lot of people who say, you know, that healthcare thing, that's confusing. I'm not sure I want it. That could be a sacrificial lamb in terms of all this. But the capital gains tax, as well as what's going to happen in regards to the, I would say, climate change work, nah. That's going to pass handily.
Oh, you're saying that the voters are going to repeal the Climate Commitment Act and the capital gains tax?
No. I'm saying they're not.
They're not going to.
Not at all. I'm saying what they're going to do is they're going to take a look at these 2 and say, these are the most important things we've ever done when it comes to being able to actually do something about climate change, actually do something about actually funding the kinds of things like roads we want to do.
Randy?
No. I mean, the fact is the carbon tax has been a failure. The governor lied about it when he said it was going to be pennies for Washington state taxpayers. Instead, drivers are paying 50 cents a gallon more. So voters see through that, and they're going to vote down that carbon tax. And the state income tax that they claim as a capital gains tax, the voters don't want a state income tax. And the legislators said, no, we're not going to allow a state income tax. And that's why voters are going to vote that down in November as well.
So, you know, the 3 voter initiatives that they ended up adopting dealt with 15 rights, codifying parents' rights, the 15 rights that they have in public school education. We had reversing the police pursuits, restrictions on police on that as well. Those were some of the things that they passed. Were you surprised that those passed? Because that was backed by Let's Go Washington, you know, which is a conservative group.
You know, whatever it was, I looked at it and I said, you know what, they're doing this to be able to take the steam out of 6 major initiatives that were all talking about anti-democratic policies. And so what they did is they said they compromised. And so of all of that, even though Randy gives me a crap for actually saying this, I got to say, look, we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. We turn around and you say to me, oh gosh, I can't stand it that you guys won't let these initiatives go through. Well, we let 3 go through, and then guess what happens? He says, Kathy, I can't stand that.
That means
that's a terrible thing.
That means you're admitting that the policies matter. And the conservative policies on those 3 mattered, and Democrats voted for them. And they said on the 3 that took money away from them, they go, no, we're going to demand that we don't let that go forward. And the voters are going to say, give us our money back in the fall.
Randy, all I can say is when we try to collaborate, you are one
you
heck
didn't try
of
to
a
collaborate,
nasty
Kathy.
dude in terms of saying, you just simply say, don't talk to me about that. It's all or nothing for us Republicans.
No, you got forced into that.
Okay, I'm going to have to meddle in between you 2 now.
Sure.
So as far as the bills go in the legislative session, just ended today. 60-day short session, but nearly 400 bills may have passed. So a lot of bills to sift through. I know we don't have the time to talk about all 400, but is there a bill that you saw that you loved or hated this legislative
Well,
session?
the one, and I think people are going to be talking about it throughout the fall campaign, and that is the one the Democrats did to ban natural gas. And the people of Washington State like natural gas. They prefer the option of heating their homes with natural gas. They like to be able to, have their natural gas fire when the weather is cold. And Democrats said, no, we don't want that to happen in the future. And that is going to be a defining issue. They jammed it through at 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday night, or on weeknight, which shows you how proud they are of the bill, is when they jam it through in the middle of the night. And I think that's going to come back to fight them.
One thing that I know that the Democrats who supported that measure would say is they're saying, hey, look, it's not a ban on natural gas, but what the bill does is it does open the door to speed it up. And some of the Republicans were pushing against it. We're saying this is another carbon tax issue. Down the road, people are going to be in an uproar, they say. They're warning us that utility costs are going to go up because of this. Is that, a true concern? Or
Girl, it is true. In terms of this, Randy, who's inconsequential argument for what's going on, kind of misses the point. The fact is, this is a sweetheart agreement that the governor, in his last days, has decided to sit down and manage to sort of say, okay, let's give Puget Sound Energy all the money they need so that we can talk about more climate change. And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is a gift. But a giveaway of a last-term governor who is sitting there giving Puget Sound Energy and the environmentalists in this case a crap load of money so they can say, okay, everybody get rid of your gas stove, when really what they should be saying is, Puget Sound Energy, where are you going to actually pay for us being able to move up to a more green state?
Some of the Democrats, there were 8 Democrats who actually voted against the measure.
Yes.
And one of them told me the reason why I did that was because they couldn't prove to me that Washington State was ready to electrify completely, that where is this all going to come from? And he says, until I can get the answer for that, couldn't support this measure. And also to bring up the fact that there are questions now on whether how much it's going to cost homeowners to retrofit their homes if that's the case.
Yes.
So if Puget Sound Energy, gets the approval from the UTC to say, hey, this neighborhood needs to electrify, well, what about those homes from the 80s and the 70s? How much is that going to cost? So is that a real concern? Or
there's a total concern. What are you talking about? In all of this, what this is really about is that people who have any kind of gas in their house are now going to have to pay more, and Puget Sound Energy is going to make more in regards to all of this. And I say this as somebody who, bit the apple and said, okay, I'll get an all-electric stove when I didn't want one. And all of this notwithstanding what's happening, this is a Puget Sound Energy gift. Am I wrong, Randy?
No, you're not wrong. And the real problem here is that Washington State is already the greenest state for energy production in the country. Because of hydro and because of nuclear, 90% of our energy is renewable. And so Democrats are trying to make the last 10% the most expensive 10% in the world. And voters are going to reject that in the fall.
All right, so let's talk about some of the changes that are coming as far as the positions go. You guys brought up a good point that there's a number of people who are retiring, longtime veterans in the legislature, and there's a bunch of them who are running for higher office. So let's take a look right here. These are the lawmakers leaving office. You see them. They're well known. They've been around for a long time, and so there's going to be people who are going to be vouching to take their spots, right? So you've got the Republicans there, and earlier we just showed you the Democrats. And also we have some of the other people here, if we can show you the ones running for higher office. So you've got Manka Dhingra, Mark Mullet, Emily Randall, Rebecca Saldana. So we don't know what's going to happen with them. Obviously, if they don't win their races, they're going to be back, etc. But what does this mean for the legislature moving forward? Is this going to change the demographic there? Is this going to change their political landscape? Randy?
Well, it will certainly change the Senate Democrat to the left.
Farther left.
Further left, yeah. Because the fact is that 2 of the most conservative members of that caucus, and I put conservatives in quotation marks, Mark Mullet and Kevin Van Wey, are running for higher office, and they're gone. they are two that are up or out, as opposed to Monka Dingra and Emily Randall, who are running for higher office. Both will lose, and then both will return to the state Senate and be very bitter about that. So that caucus is going to go to the left. And that's going to be a problem for the state next year. And for Republican Governor Dave Reichert, he's going to have to deal with a much further left Democrat Senate.
In his dreams. All I can say is that as we look at this, I see that there are going to be opportunities for things, but I don't think anything's going to move left or right. In terms of all of this, what I see is that there's much more conversation right now about a more moderate look at what's going on. People are far less partisan than they've ever been, in my experience. And what's happening is that we're taking a look at things right now, and we're saying, okay, what is going to be the big difference? And I think when it comes to the expenditure of money that has to do with capital gains tax, kind of actual profits, as well as what's going on in regards to all of our climate change money operations. I got to say that we're going to have more money than we've ever had. We're going to have more opportunities to be able to do things that people want to see done. But frankly, in the whole long term of it, it's not going to be left or right. It's going to be about what is the most important thing that we can do to be able to help in regards to climate change.
All right, so before we leave it here, what are your final thoughts on the presidential primary coming up on Tuesday? What are your final thoughts on that, Kathy?
Well, unfortunately, there's no drama left. I mean, with
Right.
Nikki Haley out of the race, and you know, Donald Trump's going to be the Republican nominee, and Joe Biden's going to be the Democrat nominee. So there's nothing left in it except to see that uncommitted vote. And how many Democrats in this state are really going to go, you know what, we want to just stick a knife in Joe Biden just for fun? And that's all an uncommitted vote would matter at this point in time, because it's not like they're voting for Donald Trump in the fall.
Actually, Democrats don't want to put a knife in Joe Biden's back. They want to put a knife in Donald Trump's back. And more importantly than anything else, it may be boring when it comes to next Tuesday's actual presidential primary,
Right.
but it'll be over early, and more importantly, we can move on and actually
Till November, right?
get more of those young people that are ready to vote for Joe Biden.
All right, Kathy and Randy, always such a pleasure. I love the feisty debate that we always have, so I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Have a great night, and of course, do not forget to send in your ballots by Tuesday.